How was the recruitment process? How did that work?
All the time I was with Punch, the recruitment department was in constant turmoil. There was always a bright new idea about how we're going to get better at recruitment, which, considering it's your bread and butter, yes, they're property companies, but they're also recruitment companies, because without people to operate your properties, you haven't got a business. And they were spectacularly bad at it for many, many years. Targeting existing lessees in other pub companies. Do you want to lease this pub? Well, no, I've got one, thanks. Never managed houses, never Costa Coffee, never Cafe Nero. It was just a bit cack-handed. And again, I've discussed with you, one of my recruitment practices was walking out of a pub, having just taken the keys off somebody and chatting to an old chap in the car park in his slippers, just been to buy his paper. 15 minutes later, new tenant. Now, he was there for a year. The pub did well. Actually, was it so bad? Is it something I would want to do regularly? No.
Right.
But that was the kind of the state of things. You didn't know how, if you can't find a tenant, you can't find a tenant. They're not exactly, towards the end, they weren't exactly queuing up. So recruitment was a massive issue. And again, Punch's strapline at the time was the best possible partner for every pub. So obviously the question you ask is, well, does that mean we can keep pubs closed till we find the best partner? No, absolutely not, stupid boy. Of course you can't. So it was difficult because you were fishing in a small pond. The quality of applicants was poor. Funding was almost never there. So you had to take what you had in front of you very often.
So Duncan Garrood's famous quote about it being harder to get into the SAS than it was to get into Punch. Perhaps take that with a pinch of salt.
I shall be signing up to the services very soon. What I'm sure he knows what he meant. There are a million different bits of paper you have to sign to make sure that you understand what you're getting yourself into, so that after the event you can't say, well, I didn't know that. But no, certainly in the Punch Falcon agreements, the Man 10, the retail agreements, they were recruiting. They were difficult to let pubs. £1,000 would get you in.
Right. Okay.
In running your own business.
So in fact, the low cost entry sales pitch was actually a double-edged sword to a certain degree.
Very much so, because if you can, we started our business with £12,000. Great, because it's working for us.
Yes.
If that's all you've got and it doesn't work, you've just lost £12,000 and whatever you're losing through trading. So yes, it is a double-edged sword. It is low-cost entry. The Tide model is a good low-cost entry, but there is a lot of stuff that goes with it. And a lot of the people that are going into it because it's a bargain are probably the ones that can't operate a pub effectively. And so we'll be the ones saying, well, rent's too high, the beer's too expensive. And these are things that you knew before you went in, but really should have been hammered home a bit better so that people didn't sign up anyway. Because there is a lot of kind of, I know that it'll be different for me, and it often never is.
No, and how did you do that personally? Because I know when we spoke earlier, you described your own, you would quite often walk away from people in certain circumstances.
If somebody applied for a pub and said, I've just been made redundant, I've just sold my house, I've just had a will read, I would probably explain to them then it probably wasn't for them. And I wouldn't want to recruit them, because you're already loading up a load of bitterness when it doesn't, that you had this lump of cash and you blew it on a business that you had no business being in. So I was very wary. I liked tried and tested operators. I used to interview them in their homes, find out what they were doing, and none of that happens anymore.
Okay.
If people came to me with a business plan in those days that had clearly been written by an accountant, we'd send them away to go and write it themselves. Now, if you came to me as an area manager with a business plan you'd written yourself, I'd send you away and get you to get it written by an accountant.
Right.
So it's flipped on its head, and people don't necessarily understand the content of their business plan, which is
kind of fundamental.
Lethal. Yeah.
Right. So your approach that you've just described, would you say that was not the norm in the industry?
No. If somebody came to you with a bit of cash, you were really quite pleased.
Right.
Because the target was always full deposit, partner-owned F&F. You didn't want to have these weird and wonderful deals done just to get somebody over the threshold. and renting fixtures and fittings, all that kind of stuff, and deposit build up, it's just not desirable.
Right. Because they wanted the cash?
No, because it actually, you build a more stable business if you've actually got enough cash flow when
Right.
you go in.
Okay.
That was the reasoning.
Right.
We went in, the pub had been stripped out, it was a brand new refurb, the F&F was 50 grand. Now, I wasn't going to put 50 grand of my own money in, so we went on an assisted purchase, but the finance fee was 25%. Now, they didn't need to do that.
No.
That was naked greed.
Yes.
That you had to have a credit license to do this. So what it meant was for every pound of F&F that you put in, they would match it.
Right.
So you got your F&F half price. You had to pay the VAT and you had to pay the finance fee. But that was a debt that was lumbered on 50 grand plus VAT plus the finance fee
Yeah.
that you lumbered with for 4 years. We were very fortunate. We made enough profit. We could afford the repayments. The other 5 agreements that were done that year didn't last 3 months.
No.
Because they just fell at the first hurdle, because the people dishing out these agreements didn't understand how the agreements worked.
Right.
So you've not got an area manager to talk to say, this is exactly what it's going to cost. This is how it works. It was very woolly,
Okay.
and it was very easy to sign something, think, well, it'll be all right. They wouldn't be doing it if it really wasn't affordable. And as I said, 5 out of 6.
Speaks for itself.
Yeah.